Sandy.
Well, I think one of the most important aspects about getting people out to vote isn't about the structure or electoral reforms that are needed so much as having real choice for voters. And choices where candidates are talking about issues that really matter and really impact voters' lives. You know, and we get back to housing affordability here. We're not really having a full and open discussion about all the reasons why we have such a crisis in our city. That's not necessarily about the structure. I'm not sure that the reason that people are not voting is because there's something structurally preventing them. I think we need more diversity. One of the things that will encourage more diversity in City Council would be limits on campaign spending and would be restrictions on the kind of donations that can be made. Is it fair for corporations that have a direct influence and a direct benefit to gain from the outcome of council decisions? Is it fair for them to be financing the major parties to the extent that they are? So perhaps campaign finance reform. And I also think it's very clear that we have to be getting to younger voters. And online voting is something that we need to look at more closely, or we have to get security around that, but we have to make a real direct appeal to the younger voter and show them as candidates, as people in public life, why it matters that their voice be heard at the polling booth. Thank you.
Sandy Garacino. Very interesting. Well, there seems to be almost a consensus on online voting, for sure. Grant Shaw?
Chris Mason, you were close.
Oh, good. I'm getting better.
Yeah, we all are, bit by bit, every day, every way. So,
that's what life is all about.
My name is Chris Mason from BU Vancouver. One of the reasons that I want to run is because I'm a young person and I don't see a lot of people under 30 represented, you know, in municipal politics. And I wanted to send a message to people my age and people in my community. I'm an artist involved in the arts community, that it's important to get involved and that things can happen when you do. I think that, you know, I'd agree with Sandy that there's not a whole lot structurally that needs to change in terms of like how we vote. Online voter registration, fantastic idea, make it a lot easier for people who I know who aren't registered right now to you know, register. I'd be wary of online voting because this takes away a level of transparency. So I think that if we don't rush into that, I think it's a good idea not to rush into it. In terms of the ward system, I'm in favor of that. I think that having some sort of hybrid system where it's part wards, part representational, what is it? Proportional representation. Hooray. You're rubbing off on me, Pia.
But you're not even blonde.
I think that having a mix of the two would be very effective. Now, I think that what Nicole Benson was saying about, you know, getting people involved in their communities is essential. If people don't think that they can make a difference where they live, they're not going to vote. They won't care. I know that there are communities. I've worked with a group in East Vancouver where I live called the Purple Thistle, and they're actually this anarchist collective of mostly young people, and they determine you know, how this arts center is run, and they've created, you know, completely free services for young people, especially low-income people. They've done gardening projects. You know, they're growing food, which is very, very important. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. One of the number one or number two issues is affordable housing. So let's tackle that one so we don't miss the opportunity while we have you all here. So you just take a moment to pick who's going to speak to that. Affordable housing, that's the big one. And maybe we should lead off with our councillor from Vision, Jeff Meggs. I think this has been a big issue on their platform. So Jeff Meggs from Vision Vancouver, City Councillor.
Well, thanks very much, Pia. It's 1 minute, right?
Two.
Two, okay.
All right.
I'll try to do it.
She's the boss.
I'll try to do it in less, but I mean, affordable housing is a crucial issue, and many people have explained why it is, but very few have said anything specific about what they would do about it. And today, Vision and COPE held a joint news conference, which went through some of the proposals that we've made in stark contrast between our proposals and the MPA's. One is that we're going to bring in a rent bank. How many people in the room are tenants? Many get against the wall. This is something that exists in other cities. It's a low-interest loan fund which you repay, and the payback rate is very, very good, so that people aren't forced out of their home because of sudden changes in their economic circumstances or anything like that. And this is a good backup and extension to the work we did to stop rent evictions, to crack down on slum landlords. I mean, this council took strong legal action through injunction to force the cleanup of SRAs, and that's been very, very effective in protecting a lot of the rooms that were necessary for people who otherwise would have been homeless. The second that was announced today, or re-announced, and Ellen was there, was just a reminder that we worked together this term to pass a new affordable rental housing plan. It includes new rental housing, a task force on renters' rights, and now the development of the rent bank, which is going to be very helpful for youth, families, and immigrants. Of course, this is a very live issue for Ellen because she's facing eviction herself. We also wanted an online searchable database of Vancouver landlords. That's the place where you'll be able to go before you rent and see if there are any outstanding work orders or problems regarding a particular landlord. And something new. This is all public information, but not accessible at the moment. So it's not an online rating system for people to complain about their landlord. There's other places to do that, but where there's documented problems, you'll be able to find that out before you rent.
Like
or see whether bed bugs, good example, yeah. And I've talked about the SRI piece. We proposed and passed the council a 10-year affordable housing program, and it's crucial that we make headway in that regard. There's been some very constructive proposals, but you've heard Bill today say he's got his own Bill McCurry platform for tomorrow that is not focusing on affordability. The NPA is let the market take care of it, and we've seen where that got us.
Jeff May, City Councillor. Very innovative idea, rental bank. I think we're all happy to have heard that scoop. You'll be reading it in the paper tomorrow, no doubt. All right, let's let the NPA speak next since they were mentioned. Bill. Okay, just a minute. Sean? I just want to make sure it was Sean.
Yeah.
Sean Pickerton
Thanks, Peter.
from the NPA.
There's a lot of eagerness in our party to speak to this issue. Bill McCurry has many great ideas, and I believe he will be putting out a release tomorrow with some specific ideas. I wanted to talk just a little bit about what our overall approach is and to give a few specifics about things that we think can be done within existing budgets and resources of the city. Councillor Meigs wants to pay everybody's rent. He would like to use our tax dollars. They've raised taxes by 15% over 3 years, and they would like to increase it further in order to pay everyone's rent. The NPA has a more specific approach to this, which is that we should take our very scarce resources as a city. We're an extremely large city with a very small tax base and a small population in a very competitive world. And so our belief is that we should focus our resources, precious and scarce resources, on areas where they're most needed, which is social housing and supportive housing for those most in need. And the NPA has a very strong track record on doing exactly that. In the last council, 3,400 units of social and supportive housing were initiated in an unprecedented partnership with the province, which saw a devotion of $2 million of city money set aside specifically for this project, the creation of the Street to Home Foundation, which is acknowledged internationally around the world as one of the most successful efforts at working towards ending homelessness. We set aside 12 city lots, property that we devoted to allow new housing units to be built, and we partnered with the province where they bought up 18 SROs and have refurbished those for social and supportive housing. This council, by the time they're done, they've reduced the social housing at Olympic Village. We may have 100 or 200 units total, compared with 3,400 under the last administration. That's where we believe our resources should be going. But I will just say briefly, one thing we could easily do is put a rental tower above or near every SkyTrain station with no parking and smaller unit size, and we could create at least a dozen affordable rental towers around the city. Thank you.
Sean Pickerton for the NPA, thank you very much. Okay, I guess we should hear at this point from Neighborhoods for a Sustainable Vancouver, and if you guys have Terry Martin as your representative.
Thank you. I'd really like to encourage everybody here to, when you're making your vote, don't vote on what Vision and the NPA say. Vote on what they did in the last 2 terms. Vote on what they did in the very last council meeting of this term. We've been going through a recession for the past few years, and yet land prices and rents have been rising dramatically. Why is that? It's because our economy is a development-driven based economy, and that always results in higher rents and higher land prices. So these two parties are doing everything they can to make unaffordability more of a reality in our city. The policy at City Hall is when you grant upzonings to developers on large developments, the policy is to demand up to 20% of the units be affordable rental housing. On the last council meeting of this entire term, both Suzanne Anton and Gregor Robertson and the entire Vision Vancouver slate voted to allow a developer to go from 300 units to 1,114 units in a development, a huge upzoning, which was worth $50–60 million extra to the developer, without requiring one single unit of rental housing and not one single unit of affordable rental housing. That's their record, that's what they're doing. They could have demanded up to 150 to 200 units of affordable rental housing, and basically they said, no, it's okay, developer, we don't need that in Vancouver. You can have all the extra money. The deal is, when you give the developer $50–60 million extra in profit, he gives something back that may cost $10 or $20 million. That's a fair exchange. The people of Vancouver win, the developer wins. Look at the record. 200 units of affordable rental housing that we could have had on the books right now, and they waived it to a developer whose money at that very meeting they were spending on their political campaigns. To the benefit of folks voted against it, and folks voted against it on every major development this past term.
Thank you. Terry Martin for MSD. Okay, how about degrowth? Are you picture spokesman? Ian Gregson for degrowth.
I'm a strong believer in co-op housing. I've been a member of Adenac Co-op, which is one of the largest co-ops in Vancouver for the last 13 years. Started by ordinary citizens in 1976. It takes the profit element out of housing. That's probably where we've got the most significant problems. Can't help but echo the sentiments of our Terry there, that City Hall is run by developers. This city has been run by developers since it started, and it continues to be so. And it's up to people like you, like me, to just get up there and say, no, enough is enough. Right? We do that by all kinds of different ways, by limiting campaign financing. It's all related. We're still a frontier city in so many ways. You know, there are cities around the world that supply housing for people who need it, and that's what the profit margin has to be taken out or reduced in some degree. We look at Little Mountain, where the housing has been sold off to foreign investment around Riley Park, and that's another good example right there. We're going to see large-scale housing towers going up there, where we should have, most certainly a co-op or some kind going in that's affordable for people. Thank you.
Ian Gregson from degrowth.